Everybody wants to get united. Like, what we gotta do is meet everybody on 149th Street at the bench.
A huge part of graffiti is getting up, getting your name out there. So it's no surprise that throwies have cemented themselves as a staple in graffiti as an art form. So in today's video, I want to share with you guys 5 different types of graffiti throwies. And along the way, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of information about each one, some pros and cons about each one as well, but do keep in mind that none of these are objectively better than any of the others. And how I personally like some of these will be my personal opinion. Now there's a bunch of different ways of doing throwies, so feel free to include your favorites in the comments down below, because we're certainly not going to cover all of them in this video. So number 5, we got the really stylized throwies, and these have a wide range of how much style could be added to them. So you have some that are fairly stylized, and then you have some that are ridiculously stylized. And the more style you add, typically speaking, the more angular and the more negative space you end up seeing in a lot of these highly stylized throwies. Now the con is, well, if you don't do these really well and your fundamentals aren't very refined, then you risk a lot when doing these. It's very easy to destroy your letter structures when it comes to throwies because throwies already lack a lot of structure. So if you start stylizing a whole bunch of stuff when you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna destroy your letters. That's the con. Another downside is oftentimes a lot of these take a lot of time to do. So you might have been better off legitimately doing a straight letter when you get to the wall than doing some of these highly stylized throwies. If you care about speed, that is. If you don't care about speed, well then these look amazing. And that's really one of the pros to this, is the fact that they just look amazing. They look gorgeous. There's something really crisp about a well done stylized throwie on a wall. Especially depending on the spot that it's in. It's like when you see those, you just think to yourself, man, this guy killed it. They did a phenomenal job. And once again, do keep in mind, not all of these have the same amount of style added to them. So some of these stylized throwies don't take much time at all. It's really up to the individual graffiti artist in order to find out that kind of balance between how much style they want and how much time they want to spend at the wall. So that's another con here. If you're looking for something more practical and faster to do, then these may not be your option. Also, dudes, really quick, I made a mistake and I gotta confess it too. So check this out. I want to make a new series of videos where we highlight stories from you guys in graffiti. So if you have any videos or clips of you guys getting up, then shoot it over to my Instagram or over to the email in the description down below. I'll be honest, last week I kind of forgot to put the email in the description down below, so that's all me, but the email is definitely down there this time. Next on the list, we got this weird blend between straight letters and throwies. And different places have different terminologies to refer to these. These right here have more structure than the average throwie, but they are as bare bones and as simple as can possibly be. But make no mistake, these are definitively straight letters, but they are straight letters simplified and distilled down to make them more practical to use in the same way that throwies are used. Now I personally like these quite a bit. The pro to these is the fact that, well, you get something that has a lot more structural integrity. It's very easy to read a lot of the time, so people at a glance can kind of see what it is and know exactly who's getting up. The cons are sometimes these still are not as fast as your average throwie. Well, obviously that's not always the case, because these would certainly be faster than the more stylistic throwies. Oftentimes, one of the cons to these is you have to be very structurally on point in order to pull these off. If your structure is off even by a little bit, you don't have anything to hide your mistakes with. Therefore, your mistakes are very easy to see. A message from today's sponsor, my own store. We recently came out with the best how to do graffiti books anywhere on the market. Whether you just started graffiti and you're looking to get out of the toy phase, or you've been doing graffiti for decades, this book has something for everybody. We talk about topics that have never been talked about in graffiti before, since we're the ones who are bringing it to light for the first time in this book. So if you want to learn about flow, you want to learn about variant structures, you want to learn how to find and evolve your style, and you want to learn much more, then pick up the book in the description down below. Physical copies coming soon. Next up, 2 and 1 letter throwies. Every now and again, you'll see somebody rocking these, and sometimes it comes off as a little bit of laziness. I guess that's kind of the con for this, but the pro is sometimes it's actually pretty necessary or required. And I think a large part of this also has to do with the graffiti artist himself. Like if I see somebody who's got a 3-letter name and they're rocking a 2-letter throwie, I'm gonna be looking at them like, what are you doing? Why not just do the extra 1 letter? On the flip side, you have people like my mentor, Demerock. That's kind of a chunky name. That's not a short name by any stretch of the imagination. And don't get me wrong, he's got a full throwie for the entire name, but he also has a throwie for Demer, and he has a throwie for Dem, and he has a throwie for DR. And in that context, it makes sense. Also, if you have a very skilled graffiti artist and they just want to rock a 1-letter or a 2-letter throwie, then their skill and their known history of getting up kind of lends them the ability to rock a 2-letter or a 1-letter without anybody really blinking an eye. An example would be, if I saw just JA's J, I'm not gonna question it. The dude gets up a ridiculous amount. If he did a one-letter throwie, I'm gonna assume, based on his history of getting up, that he had a pretty good reason to do just a singular letter, whether it's that he was running out of paint or something else. Now, the pros of these is if you have a really long name, then you get to kind of abbreviate it, if you will. It can make longer names that are like 6 letters, 7 letters, a little bit more reasonable to do in a timely manner. Also saves you a lot of paint, so that's also a plus. The con is a little strange on this one. Number one, well, people don't get to see your full name. Of course, assuming your name is longer. If you're newer, this can hinder you because people already don't know who you are. Next up, we've got the standard letter throwie. No matter the language, every letter-based art form has the just pure letter structure, the pure anatomy, if you will, and this anatomy can be adapted to any particular art form, in this case, throwies. So when you're doing a standard letter throwie, typically you're going to have those rounded structures. And these letters, once again, they're pretty standard. They're not really considered biting a lot of times because, well, you gotta have some way to do a letter that's considered standard practice, and that would be what this is. This is a great place for newer graffiti artists to start, and make no mistake, you can still add some flair, some unique personal style to these, while still keeping them pretty simplistic, and that's really the benefit of these. You'll see, for example, graffiti artists like Scene have a very iconic S, E, and N. And even though these are very simplistic letters, he still implements his own personal flair and style onto them. Now, to be fair, the cons for these very standard letters are pretty much non-existent. They're standard letters. However, if you're looking for something more stylistic, then these aren't going to appeal to you. Now, that isn't a fault of these standard letters, it's just not your cup of tea. So once again, these don't really have much of a con. Now, from there, we gotta move on to the next one. And this one's amazing, and that is one-liner throwies. One-liner throwies are incredible. Understand, the optimized line order in order to get your throwie to be one line is really impressive. It's awesome, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, and once again, it's highly efficient. Now, if you try to force any kind of one-liner, doesn't matter if you're doing a hand style or a throwie, and you don't really need it to be a one-liner, then it shows, right? This is one of the cons here, is if you try to force it, then you end up having lines that don't really need to be there, you make things a lot more contrived, and it doesn't look too good. The goal behind a one-liner is to keep not only the momentum of movement from your hand and your can, but also the momentum of the line itself to create the letters in a smooth fashion. That not only enhances the speed in which you do things, but it also maintains the integrity of the letter. I mean, look at this right here. If we were to watch him do this, he would complete this faster than some people would complete their hand styles. That's wild. That's crazy. That's amazing. It's beautiful. I love it. It's top notch. But guys, I think that just about wraps up today's video. Let me know what style of throw is your favorite, and if you have any other styles of throwies that weren't on this list, be sure to leave it in the comments down below. Now, if you guys are looking for the best how to do graffiti tutorials anywhere online, check out this top playlist right here. We also have the book that we just released in the description down below. It's a comprehensive guide to graffiti. It'll teach you stuff that you can't find anywhere else about graffiti. And then we have more graffiti content right down here. I'll catch you guys back here next week. Thanks for watching.